Hey guys, it's Steven here and welcome to my channel. This video is about the best Fidelity, Vanguard, and Charles Schwab index funds and ETFs available. If you have wondered about the index fund and ETF offerings at these three brokerages, this video is for you. All three are fantastic brokerages for investing. No matter which brokerage you choose to use, you cannot go wrong with choosing any of them. If you have not opened an account yet, this video may help you decide which you would want to open an account with for index fund or ETF investing. You may even choose to open an account with multiple brokerages. Amongst Fidelity, Vanguard, and Charles Schwab, there are thousands of index funds and ETFs available with no transaction fees and commission-free trades, as all three are low-cost leaders in these products. Fidelity and Charles Schwab have a lower minimum dollar to invest, starting at no cost or $1, versus Vanguard index fund Admiral shares at $3,000 minimum to invest. But you can purchase Vanguard equivalent ETFs that have similar holdings to their index fund counterparts at a lower cost per share. Let's dive right into it with number 1, the Dividend Kings. If you're a fan of dividends, these are for you. The Vanguard High Yield Index Fund Admiral shares, VHYAX, at an expense ratio of 0.08% is also available as the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, VYM, with an expense ratio of 0.06% and a distribution yield of about 3.17%. When we look at the returns, since its inception in 2006, it has generated around 7.7% returns per year and around 10% in the past 5 years. The investment style is categorized as large cap value and a risk potential of 4, meaning Vanguard classifies this fund as a moderate to aggressive holding, ideal for long-term investors. Top 10 holdings include Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Procter & Gamble, Bank of America, Intel, Verizon, Comcast, AT&T, Pfizer, and Walmart that make up 24% of the total assets. For Charles Schwab, the Dividend King is a Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, SCHD, with an expense ratio of 0.06% and a distribution yield of about 3.41%. When we look at the returns since its inception in 2011, it has generated over 14% returns per year and over 14% in the past 5 years. The historic return is high and historic risk is below average. The investment style is categorized as large cap value. Top 10 holdings include ExxonMobil, Texas Instruments, Altria, 3M, IBM, Coca-Cola, UPS, Verizon, BlackRock, and US Bancorp that make up 38% of the top 10 holdings. Fidelity currently does not have a competitive dividend index fund or ETF compared to Vanguard or Charles Schwab. However, what Fidelity does have leads us to number 2, the Fidelity Zero Index Funds with an expense ratio of 0%. Yes, 0%. So if you're looking for the lowest cost index funds available, that will be with Fidelity. Fidelity currently offers 4 Fidelity Zero Index Funds. The Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index Fund, FNILX, Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, FZROX, Fidelity Zero Extended Market Index Fund, FZIPX, and Fidelity Zero International Index Fund, FZILX. Fidelity first introduced their Fidelity Zero Index Funds in late 2018. So there's not enough information to draw for their returns. However, from scanning the portfolio holdings from each of the Fidelity Zero Index Funds, we would expect a return similar to traditional index funds. For example, when we look at the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, FZROX, we see the top 10 holdings are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, and JP Morgan, which is consistent with other total market index funds. So if you're looking for the absolute lowest cost index funds, the expense ratio of 0% cannot be beat. These Fidelity Zero Index Funds are a fantastic choice. There's also a $0 minimum to start investing with these index funds. For number 3, an index fund that tracks the S&P 500 is an absolute staple in any index fund portfolio. The S&P 500 index funds has generated around a return of 8% over the past 20 years and around 15% over the past 5 years. For Vanguard, that would be the Vanguard 500 Index Fund, Admiral shares, VFIAX, with an expense ratio of 0.04%, which is also available as Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, with an expense ratio of 0.03%. For Fidelity, that would be the Fidelity 500 Index Fund, the FXAIX, with an expense ratio of 0.015%. And for Charles Schwab, the Charles Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund, SWPPX, with an expense ratio of 0.02%. While past performance does not guarantee future results, the historic return is above average, which is fantastic, and historic risk is average because you're investing in big name companies. So there will be fluctuations year to year, but it is an upward trend over time. The investment style is categorized as large cap blend, meaning there are both value and growth stocks. Top 10 holdings include Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Google or Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, and JP Morgan. For number 4, a total market index fund is another staple in anyone's portfolio. In a total market index fund, you're essentially trying to mimic the growth and buying a piece of every company in the United States. A total market index fund has generated an annualized return of approximately 7% per year throughout history and about 14% in the past 5 years. For Vanguard, that would be the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, VTSAX, with an expense ratio of 0.04%, which is also available as the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, VTI, with an expense ratio of 0.03%. For Fidelity, that would be the Fidelity Total Market Index Fund, FXAIX, with an expense ratio of 0.015%. Or the alternative mentioned earlier, the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, FZROX, with an expense ratio of 0%. And for Charles Schwab, that would be the Schwab Total Market Index Fund, SWTSX, with an expense ratio of 0.03%. For number 5, while I have tremendous faith in the growth of US companies, many countries around the world have fantastic companies. An international index fund gives you exposure to the returns of publicly traded companies from all around the world. At Vanguard, that would be the Vanguard Total International Stock Market Index Fund, Admiral shares, VTIAX, with an expense ratio of 0.11%, which is also available as the Vanguard Total International Stock ETF, VXUS, with an expense ratio of 0.08%. For Fidelity, that would be the Fidelity International Index Fund, FSPSX, at an expense ratio of 0.035%. Or the alternative mentioned earlier, Fidelity Zero Extended Market Index Fund, FZIPX, with an expense ratio of 0%. And for Charles Schwab, that would be the Schwab International Index Fund, SWISX, with an expense ratio of 0.06%. We have one bonus honorable mention, the Bond Index Fund. For more conservative investors, if you want to reduce the volatility of your total portfolio, or as you get closer to your target retirement date, you would allocate more for bonds. At Vanguard, that would be the Vanguard Total Bond Admiral shares, VBTLX, with an expense ratio of 0.05%, which is also available as the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF, BND, with an expense ratio of 0.035%, and its distribution yield of 1.2%. For Fidelity, that would be the Fidelity US Bond Index Fund, FXNAX, with an expense ratio of 0.025% and a distribution yield of about 1.1%. And for Charles Schwab, it would be the Schwab US Aggregate Bond Index, SWAGX, with an expense ratio of 0.04% and distribution yield of 2.45%. Hope you guys found this video helpful. There are lots of fantastic index funds and ETFs available on Vanguard, Charles Schwab, and Fidelity. For your reference, here's a summary of the funds we discussed today. Feel free to pause at any time to review the list. These are also listed in the video description for your convenience. Index funds and ETFs are a low-cost, easy, and efficient way to safely invest. Let me know what index funds and ETFs you are interested in. Invest for your financial future. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button and that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell for more videos delivered to you. If you guys have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below, and you guys have a great one.